A brief message from your friendly neighborhood editing Jordan. We tend to try to keep things pretty PG-13 around here, but this is an improv podcast. So, who knows what we're going to say. Sometimes we throw in some swearing, some sexual content, and some violence. So, as a general warning, viewer discretion is advised. Also to be noted, the opinions stated about a certain tabletop role-playing game are just that, our opinions. We love the game and we like talking about it. So, any criticisms are really just all in good fun. That being said, wizards, please hire us. All right, with that out of the way, let's get on with the show.
Well, it's that time of year, everyone, at least if you're from the United States, but I don't know how it works in other countries.
Yep, it's cold outside, but despite
Valentine's
that,
Day.
you are so... I'm gonna strangle you. I was gonna set up this whole bit where we compare Valentine's Day to tax season without drawing the complete clarity, and it would be a joke at the end where we're like, oh yeah, this holiday about relationships and your closeness to one another despite the cold, and it's tax season. And you blew it immediately.
We can still do that.
No, we cannot.
If we were a pet store, we'd be going out of business by how many cats you let out of the bag.
True, it must run in the family. Y'all are awful at holding pets down.
Well, we're all allergic to cats, so that's why we're like pushing them out of the bag. We don't
I
want them
can
here.
tell. I can tell.
Happy tax season.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Nat One Podcast, aka Nope, because nope, you're not gonna want to hear what we're about to have to say. I'm Pertuset.
I'm Levi.
And I'm Jordan.
Yeah. It is, in fact, tax season here in the United States. So...
It's Pertuset's favorite time of year.
It actually is.
My entertainment right now.
We had a long conversation before we started this episode about taxes. And then, because of that, I got on a little tangent, like 5 minutes, not even, it was much shorter than that, actually.
It was a very short Levi tangent.
About
38 minutes.
About the, anyone who knows, like, George R. R. Martin probably has heard that quote that he said, when he was discussing Lord of the Rings and why it's not his favorite kind of fantasy, where he said the thing about he wants to know what Aragorn's tax policy is after he becomes king. Stuff like that. It's a very made fun of quote because it's a contrast of genres, right? And so we thought maybe we could explain our tax policies in our D&D worlds that we've made. Let me break it down for you, Mark.
If you save the world, do you still have to pay taxes?
Yes.
We're going
to find out. If you live in a different dimension, do you still have to pay taxes?
Yes.
God damn it.
The interdimensional IRS.
Well, that's what I was asking.
Interdimensional Revenue Service.
There you go. Well, I was asking for clarification if Atlas and Saladin had been paying interdimensional taxes for 1,000 years.
We're going to find out. Because I'm going to be honest with everyone, this isn't a question I've thought about that much. And so today I'm going to be thinking about it much. Apparently Pertuset has thought about this very in depth, so we're going to learn more about his. But I'm probably going to be figuring it out as I'm thinking of it today.
I'm going to add tax evasion to Ren's list of crimes.
This is the part where you say back to the weather.
Which one? Which one of us?
Anyone.
Back to the weather.
And now Taryn with sports.
No, because he's not here now. He's dead to us.
Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum.
And
Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum.
the IRS, as far as they're concerned. Well, you see, thanks for passing that to me. I have not actually thought about the taxes in my world system very much whatsoever. However, I am proud to say that I'm able to conjure a general idea like that. It'll contradict everything I've already established, and it may make plot holes in my world, but I'm simply too stubborn to say otherwise, so it will stick, and if there's any inconsistencies, I will delete them. I can do that.
The ultimate retcon.
Yes. It's called the backspace key on my document. Well, it's based on Greek society, and I, as a historian, am very familiar with ancient Greek society's rules on taxing. which they didn't do at all.
I was about to say, I don't know if historians are familiar with ancient Greek society's rules on taxing.
So, however, it comes down instead to each nation because there is, they're just city-states. There is no overarching federal entity. They're all governed within themselves. So the elves, just taxes. Taxes like crazy, right? Tons of taxes. Lots of taxes. Taxes on taxes.
That's why they're all poor.
Yes. Levi, any thoughts on that?
They're all... Oh, yeah, no, there were a bunch of poor people, huh? I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
it was like a problem the first time we went there. They were dying in the streets.
I mean, okay. Well, then my first question would have to be, if they're a tax-heavy society, right? How do they do it? How do they organize it? Is there like an IRS, or is it more so like how do they go about doing it?
Or
You
is it
know
just
how-
Chirexo going like, hey, you, come here.
No, he didn't. He wasn't a fan of it. In fact, he's committed tax evasion several times.
This is why we like Chirexo.
No, you know how the mafia does it? Like when you owe them stuff?
Yep.
It's like that.
They leave a decapitated horse head in your bed?
That's the first step. It's also
Oh.
why you don't see any horses over
It's
there.
tax season, honey. They left one in the bed.
Yep.
On your side or mine? Is that who's paying this year?
Jointly filed gets both.
You
Yes,
get 2 horse heads. Oh my god.
Oh, actually, it's like one, but it's jointly combined in the middle.
They put it like squarely in the middle of the bed instead of picking.
No, it's like 2 horse heads.
Yeah, I
stitched
was
together
about
in
to
the
say
middle.
I envisioned 2 that were stitched together at the neck.
Well, not
Or
the
if you
neck.
just find a 2-headed horse.
No.
It's like that poem about the 2-headed calf.
No. Don't
It's the
inquire.
poem.
How
It's
long-
the
Okay.
poem about the
We
2-headed
have
calf.
known Jordan
sure
and Taryn
is.
for how long, and you still haven't learned to not ask why when they
It
bring up a
sure-
non sequitur?
It sure is.
We were talking about 2-headed horses, so now I'm talking about 2-headed cow.
No, we're not. Anyway,
We were talking about 2 horse heads.
No,
You
we
were
are
talking
not.
about
We are
2-headed
talking
horses.
about taxes.
Because the mafia's using the 2 horse heads. You said that part.
And if you specially breed 2-headed horses, it makes it more cost effective.
There
'cause
are
you only
no
have to off
2-headed
one-
horses.
You only have to off 1 horse instead of 2.
No. They use intimidation and threats of violence, followed by violence, to get their income's worth, as well as if they need to resort to it, selling organs
like
and enforced labor.
Oh my god, it's like the Repo Man.
even if the people are like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna give you our taxes," do they still just resort to violence after that?
No,
Okay.
sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes it's also used as a front to be violent to people they don't like.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So
Yeah,
is the Repo Man
your
canon?
elves were a pretty terrible, awful, horrible society, it seems like, just from the
Very
more and
illegal.
more you keep expanding upon them.
Well, see, that's the great part, is because they were elves that are very long-lived in a world that's pretty short-lived. So it's really funny that it was a super duper elitist society because there were people that still lived in that world that were there when world was created. So, so they learned how to game the system.
So in a sense, you could kind of say on an elf time scale, it probably was a pretty short-lived society.
Yeah, it's
Because after the first generation actively happening in our world, there was a violent revolution.
It's very interesting. It's very fun to mess with because you can tell immediately that they're making mistakes, right? They're learning. It's healing.
Nature is healing, OMG.
And one thing they're going to learn is that taxes are theft.
So with that being said,
Mhm.
I want you to now inform us about how Sinfili works, based off of them being a society of communes.
There is no annual tax thing like we come to know it. Instead, just everything you do is taxed. But
Mhm.
rather than it being taxed with income, it's taxed with labor. So
Oh, so it's like
you-
sales tax.
Not quite. I would equate it more to income tax. So if you, I'm trying to think.
So are you saying like if you work on a project that the commune like put together and you do that labor as part of like your payment, because we've established that that's how they pay for things in Sinfilia is you do labor for someone, do you then have to do extra labor on top of the labor as the tax?
Yes.
Dang, I hate taxes.
You have to give 120% depending on your region, up like plus or minus 5%, kill me, of extra effort, and they will know.
Oh
Thank
my
God
goodness.
Thalassa doesn't need to sleep, I guess.
It is
My
pretty
poor
easy.
hubby.
It's pretty easy. You just make more food.
Yeah, that would, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that one's probably not that bad, especially for a society that's all dwarves and halflings.
They'll know too eventually, because while they don't have like an annual comeuppance sort of thing, eventually they're gonna be like, "Hey, we noticed you have not been giving your extra 10% to the state, so kick it up, or we're gonna kick you up."
Go in the mines.
Very, very community-driven society.
Yeah. It's also a little bit like Japan, where like if you do slack, you get shunned a lot. So
Yeah.
like it's kind of like Scarlet Letter-esque, but instead of the
The-
Scarlet Letter being infidelity, it's poor work enthusiasm.
Yeah, the punishment is less like they're gonna put you in the stockades and more like no one will speak to you. You won't be able to interact with anyone. You will just be shoved out of society,
Yeah.
dummy.
Perfect place to create villains like Shanae.
Excuse him, he wasn't held as a child.
Yeah, working 100% effort, not enough for the state, enforced 115%.
I still can't get over that canonically Shanae's whole thing is that he's like Goob from Meet the Robinsons.
And upon now watching the newly released Has Been Hotel series, I can also say he's like Serpentious.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he is.
Very much
Oh my
so.
God, no, he is just Serpentious.
They all
In
hate
several
me.
ways, yeah. It's great. It's great. I love this trope of over-the-top villains that aren't actually very effective at what they do.
Petition for Shanae to have an army of egg boys.
No. He's the only one that can have a shiny head in the clique.
Valid. Oh my God, like Megamind, like the new Megamind movie.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still thinking about the Repo Man. My brain is all over the place.
I was gonna say Shanae has to have an army of small fuzzy minions because they're not allowed to be shiny like he is.
I
So
will
they're
also
all just
accept that.
Little
Oh, they're like little
puffballs.
moss balls.
Maybe.
I just call them James. But
Yeah, that tracks.
anyway, more questions about my specific tax policy before we get into what the audience should do and Levi's actual tax policies.
Okay.
What is the tax policy for a Dionysus cult?
They don't have a tax policy.
I was about to say I feel like they wouldn't have taxes.
Well, I was wondering if it was just like they're already bad, that just makes them worse, that like on top of all the horrible things that they do, you also have to pay taxes.
No, but you gotta remember they're a religious organization, so they're tax exempt anyway.
Oh yeah, because it's nonprofit.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Is that how it works in the Olympus universe? Is that a thing like religious places get exempt from taxes?
Does that mean the temple is also exempt?
Pay taxes?
That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah.
Iris, that's why Iris has so much money. She doesn't have to pay taxes.
However, if you are outed as doing something for non-religious reasons, you gotta pay like an immense luxury tax.
Can you imagine if we were just like out adventuring after Iris got her first like big lump sum and some guy came up to us and was like, I'm gonna need 20%.
Iris, pay the man.
The reason this one kills me in particular is since it's all the Greek gods and it's not typical worship. I love the idea of like an Aphrodite worshiper being caught out for spending money on like food for the homeless.
Food for the needy.
Yeah.
You didn't buy prostitutes?
Exactly. It's
Oh, that's
taxable
horrible.
income. Or taxable expenditures, I suppose.
You faithless slime! How
And
dare
can
you!
continue to apply this to other aspects as well.
Okay. So is there a tithe where it's like you're encouraged to give money to the temple, but you don't have to?
No, they're a little bit more communal, kind of like Sinfilia, where that. So you just have to like do your part at the temple,
Okay.
and if you don't, they're gonna kick you out and not feed you. It's not the sort of shunning. Like in Philly, it's the straight up like, you are a bum.
It's straight up them being like, you're banished by.
You are evicted. Yeah.
Get out.
Well, dang.
But it
Okay.
also depends on the god. So like Ares worshippers are going to get free room and board for literally killing each other.
Well, there you go.
So if you decide you don't like your bed anymore and you want your buddies, you can just kill them for it.
Mhm. It's just that easy. Same for Hermes people. They just got to steal stuff. Which it's really crazy how you have to have stolen goods are not taxable, but if you purchase something with Hermes, no, it still works because he's all commerce too. Never mind, he's in the clear.
Yeah. Commerce and travel.
He's good. He's cleared.
Dang.
I thought I found a funny loophole there. He's just got so many domains.
Okay, so then if we move on to the last still existent kind of society, how do the orcs do their stuff? Do they even have taxes?
Oh, you know the answer.
Do they just beat each other
They
for money?
beat each other up.
They just beat each other up for money.
I like to think that tax season in Zodus is based on the idea that there's a very strong group of orcs called the IRS that once per year go door to door demanding money. And if you don't concede, you have to fight them. And if you fail, they take everything. But if you succeed, you get a little bit for yourself.
So we've got back to
okay.
Mafia Enforcer territory.
Well, no, this one's just anticipated, right? Like in the elf one, you can't.
This
really
one's just
hardly
like
fight
ours.
back. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you have to guess how much you give them, hope that it's enough, and if it's not, they'll beat you up. But you have a chance to beat them up back, in which case you get a lot more.
It's like that one meme video that came out last year at tax season. Tax time. How much? Guess. $600? Jail.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, well, that's I was expecting either it to be just like that or for it to be comically like overcomplicated for the orcs and for it to be like the one thing they have that was a very rigorous bureaucratic system.
There's the one orc accountant that everybody uses.
It may yet become that after all things are settled in our current
boy.
conflict.
The orcs are gonna be the smart ones.
Who else is left to be smart? The elves?
True. The elves have been pretty well. I mean, there'll be the like plebeians who rose up.
Yeah, like I said, who's gonna be left to be smart?
Yeah, I was about to say that. Can they read?
The uneducated masses or the orcs?
Well, no, the orcs do have education in some sense. We know that much. It's
It's
just
not popular.
it's just orky.
But if they bring it back into fashion.
Gosh, what a strange. See, that's something I've enjoyed about Olympus is like you've taken most of the stereotypes of the fantasy races and cranked them up to like 12. Like the orcs love beating people up and hurting each other. The elves are super haughty. The dwarves and halflings are like super communal and just all about work constantly. But now, because everything's getting turned on its head, we don't know what's gonna happen after the end of this campaign. Everything's getting uprooted, and all of those tropes are gonna be turned on their head, or maybe not even turned on their head, but turned sideways.
I hate the status quo.
As we learned through his god design.
If it is worth explaining, because it's a dead, gone society that doesn't exist anymore, how did the humans do it? Were they just like normal?
Well, they were a very religious society, as has been mentioned, but not very often mentioned. So I imagine most of their taxes were... See, they weren't communal, though. Not in the sense of, like, the way they organized their payment structures.
Actual enforced tithe?
I think so, probably. That makes the most sense to me. It's like, hey,
Give money to the temple?
you have to give this much money for each deity,
Yeah.
depending on, like, what you did and what you prayed for, probably.
How much did you provide to the state-sponsored churches this
can
year?
you imagine the poor single dudes and how much money they owed to the Temple of Aphrodite? That's just bad.
You didn't get laid enough this
Single
year, so you
women,
owe.
too.
True,
Single
I guess.
Actually, that's like what we were just talking about with how the American system encourages having children because it gives you tax breaks for having children.
Yep.
In the human society, everyone would have immediately found a spouse as soon as possible so that
Happy
they didn't have
life,
to pay the Aphrodite tax.
no taxes. Although, if you don't go to temple enough, they're gonna be like, "What are you, some sort of heretic? You worshiping some of
Yes.
those non-Olympians out there?" Inquisition time.
Woohoo!
Jail.
Jail. And then you have to pay the heretic fee. The heretic tax.
Yeah.
That's like the in medieval Muslim societies, that was a real thing.
Yeah.
In medieval Muslim societies, they had the forgive me, my pronunciation might be horrible. I think it's the jizya tax or the jizya tax, which is just if you're not Muslim, you pay more.
That's what it'd be like in old Chiton, except also probably with the stockades this time.
Ah,
They have
yeah.
the typical medieval European get ashamed,
There you go. There you go.
ring the bell, and now it's
Okay.
back to Game of Thrones.
So that so basically like while not being a feudal society necessarily, pretty similar to like feudal structures of taxes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Why'd you say it like that?
Don't know anything about Family Feud.
God
Good answer. Good
dang.
answer.
God dang. Kill. All right, well. Oh. How's Atlantis doing?
I forgot that place was real. They're a taxless society. They believe it's theft.
Well, there you go. I'm gonna go live in Atlantis. Let
Good
me
luck.
make sure I have water breathing prepared.
Or air bubble.
Or air bubble.
Or water walk if you just like jump really hard.
What?
No.
No.
Yep.
No.
Jail.
Broken legs.
Well, if you like jump hard enough, maybe it creates like an air pocket and you just like sit in the bubble.
I encourage you to try this.
I don't think that's how
Strongly.
it works.
This is Arlo logic coming into play here. This is how water walk works.
At all. I don't think that's how it works at all.
I don't know, ask Arlo.
I'm not going to. I don't trust Arlo.
And that's your problem.
No, I think it's been very beneficial. Anyways,
It's Jordan's turn.
yeah,
God.
explain how your taxes work.
Yeah.
So in the homebrew world that I designed for my friends at work, well, actually, no, there is taxes because the museum of like magical artifacts that they were working at was a state sponsored, was like a nationally sponsored organization, kind of like a library or a museum. And so that would have been paid for via tax dollars. They had like developed governments and stuff. And I would say that each country would have had a similar system, but their own like nuances to it because some cities were more magically developed than others. And so like one was kind of a technological mecca that had definitely a lot more magic in it. And so the government probably would have tried to regulate and control the commerce of magical items and like more on the technology side. So there would have been some kind of separate taxation for like, did you declare your magic usage and your spell components this year?
No.
And then the ones that would have relied less heavily on magic would have been a little bit more lax about that kind of stuff. And then we had I think I called it the Void, which was the city that was in a cavern and it was basically built on scaffoldings into the walls. And theft was really, really popular there. So they probably wouldn't have enforced taxes very much. It probably would have been more like mafia justice.
Crazy how that just keeps coming up. Mafia justice. When it comes to taxes.
What if I taxed the mafia justice?
How?
What do you mean how?
Who does the taxing of the
Me.
mafia justice? You?
I put a fee on all mafia justice.
Ever?
I feel like that makes sense if you're the one that's running the mafia.
I am not.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying is how are you going to enforce
How are you going to enforce that when you
the
have the
taxes?
mafia breathing down your neck?
I don't really enforce it. I just like say it and eventually hope
And hope.
someone will do it.
You're just in really good with one of the mafia bosses, so he's like, yeah, we should cut this guy a break. Like,
I don't think that I even am. I think
He's just
I-
saying it with such confidence that
Mhm.
they're unsure as to why would he say it with so much confidence if he didn't have some way of backing it
Yeah.
up, right?
Think about
Gotcha.
it. Like we enacted, like some guy just enacted mafia justice on somebody else, and like the guy's like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much," and I happen to be around, and I'm like, "Okay, now you have to pay your tax for the mafia
I get
justice."
5% of that.
Yeah, you think the guy's gonna be like, "Nah, who are you?" No, he's gonna be like, "Here you go. Here's a little bit of money. What's 5%? You know?"
Well, is that even taxes, or are you just having someone pay you for a service, even though it's not really your service? So it's kind of fraud, but
Well, what if I'm the nation though?
Well, but if theft is the norm, then fraud is fine.
we're just coming back around to taxation as theft, guys. We're just
That's the title of this episode.
oh.
No, it's probably not. I gotta come up with something more creative.
What's the three inevitabilities?
Uh,
Death and taxes is the
death,
two.
taxes, and something else.
I can't remember what the other one is. Is it just death and taxes?
I thought it was just death and taxes.
Yeah, an unknowable third thing.
Yeah.
Or so I was just I don't know, my brain was wanting to do rule of threes with it.
There
Well,
was
Yeah,
rule
no.
of threes
stuff.
usually makes more sense. That sounds like there should be a third thing.
Death and theft. That's what we call this episode.
February's favorite holiday, tax season.
Yep.
How do you combine D and IRS and make it make sense?
D and IRS.
It's
IRS.
die and taxes, which are the two
True.
inevitabilities.
Yep.
There we go. All right, Levi, have you figured out your tax system yet, or do we need to figure out how they at home should be doing their taxes? Because I'm cooking on something for that.
Or do I
Well-
need to elaborate on my made-up tax system?
I mean, I know that mine, it would obviously depend on where you are because like in Malrand, which is where campaign 2 took place, most of those societies are pretty feudal. So they've got tiered like there are
Subscription
landowners.
services?
What?
Subscription services?
No.
Patreon tiers?
No. They've got landed systems where there's an upper class of landed lords and then people live on their land for their protection within their society. Rockaton's like that. Most of the lands in Belhar are like that. And in those cases, in history, there was a lot of what was called taxation in kind, which was that you didn't take money from people. You just basically said, it's kind of like what you have for Sinphilia, where it's like, you're just going to do stuff for me. In return for me being the landowner and giving you protection for living on the land, you just have to do work, and I get to reap some of the rewards of that work. So if you're a farmer, every year some of your crop is going in my stockades, in my stocks. If you're a stonemason, every year you gotta give the lord a certain amount of bricks. If you're a blacksmith, every year you got to provide the armory with so many like weapons or tools.
What if I'm an artist by trade?
Artisan portraits.
In feudal society, artists wouldn't really be taxed because they really more so
Loophole.
work off commission. But you also
It's
probably
just like
would,
real life.
yeah, you would never really have any money.
It's just like
Um,
real life, unless you do
because-
furry stuff, right?
Well, no.
That's how you
No.
rake in the mad commissions, is by
Because
doing furry
unlike
stuff.
unlike in our world, in the Vivia universe, there's an entire race of beast folk people that are just like that. So then it takes away from the appeal of furryism
Does
because
it?
it's
Does
real.
it? Then
Well,
it just
but-
becomes a fetish.
Exactly. And do people
An
pay as
enactable
much for
one.
regular stuff as they do for the furry stuff? It's still lucrative. You can still make money by doing pornography.
Okay,
Well, it's not
what
the
is-
content of the art that is what gets them paid. It's just that the furry community is remarkably good at tipping artists. You learn this when you go to art
That's what I'm
school.
saying. There would be no furry community because it wouldn't be a subcategory.
What?
It's just real. It's just a thing that exists.
So what would replace the furry community then? In
Ugh.
what's something that's not attainable but requires like commissions and is very
That's really difficult to
Typical.
do in a world that has magic in it. That-
is it?
I mean, I'm trying to think right now. It couldn't be scalies. Exact same thing applies. I'm trying. It like you couldn't do any of the like, ooh, hot demons because demons are very much a thing that exists and people have seen them regularly. Same for
Well, I
angels
thought
and
they were
celestials.
less regular now.
Well, they're less regular, but people very much like know that they are real. It's not like something in our world where we regularly have scholarly debates about it, where people are like, "Oh, religion isn't real." Blah blah
Well, I
blah.
mean, we
This
know
is
furries are real. We see them at conventions.
I'm not
Give you
saying
a hint.
furries aren't real.
The answer is inside Terran.
What?
The aboleth.
That's still real in the.
Yes.
But largely
But
unseen.
You well, not even just unseen, but they're like, that'd be so hard to like, get with romantically. People, especially like learned wizards that know about the monsters and stuff like that are like, I have a thing for monsters, but I could not possibly sex them up.
Your new target audience is monster fucker wizards.
They would have a lot of money, presumably, because that, magic casting comes with getting paid a decent a bit, I'd imagine. Disposable income.
Okay, I'm running on your line of thought here now. Okay. While there may be entities that are like furry bait in a fantasy universe, there are still monsters which are very much dangerous and will kill you.
Yeah.
So they're still just as unattainable even if they are real. So yes, the target audience switches from furries to specifically monster fuckers.
Yeah, it's like
Which is kind of like a subcategory of furry.
It's the Monster Girl Encyclopedia. Look at that in our real
Yes.
world. It'd be the same thing, but
Exactly.
Also, all the
Okay.
people that are so horny for Mothman,
What?
that's a thing.
I'm not questioning this.
You did it. You did it this time. You said what?
Well, this wasn't even a question. This was a statement. What?
Oh man. Okay. So yeah, no, I mean artists, even in medieval times they didn't really pay taxes mainly because they didn't really usually they didn't own property. They kind of went from like court to court and were like, "Hey, you should sponsor me. I'll make cool pictures and stuff for you, and I'll I'll make portraits of you and glorify you and make you look really cool." And as long as they did a decent job, they usually got paid decent money for everyone they did. But once their use started running dry, usually they got the boot. Like Saint
I know what
Germain.
I'm doing.
So you're gonna be an artist in the Vivia universe and get very brief, large sums of money interspersed with poverty. Okay.
I would say that I would simply manage my spending, but Funyuns.
You would. You'd be in turn commissioning the wizard to be like, okay, now can you make this food that I want?
You make
It
Funyuns.
needs to taste very specific, and I need you to. Do you know any alchemists?
Despite their name, they are not shaped like an onion. They are shaped like a circle, a ring.
So you want onion
You
rings.
invent onion
No, they need to be very airy.
They don't have onions in them. They taste kind of like onions a little bit, but they don't have onions in them.
There's no actual onions. No,
Okay.
no, this isn't right. No. They should be thicker on the edges.
So yeah, that's how the majority of Malran societies would work via tax.
My question from the beginning still stands. As an archfey, am I still beholden to mortal tax laws?
Not mortal tax laws,
Okay, that answers my question.
fey tax laws.
I'll pay fey taxes. I just didn't want to have to pay taxes on 2 planes. That's a
gonna
little
pay
much.
those
Every year you have
taxes?
to give up a memory.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're the Fey person that's careful. You're gonna pay their taxes.
Looks like another character is going to commit tax evasion.
They've got the MRS, the Memory Revenue Service.
Revenue?
Yeah, that's their currency. They
Oh.
exchange memories. It's like that Honkai Star Rail Myriad Celestia, the first trailer. Let's make an exchange of memories. Yeah.
Okay, but if I'm part of the court and scary enough to other people, can I commit tax fraud?
Anyone can commit tax fraud in any system if you know how to. Like,
Except one.
it's very doable. What?
I had an idea for something we'll tell the audience in a few moments.
Oh, okay.
Repo man.
But I was gonna say other societies like Enmity. Enmity is a very centralized empire, imperial nation. It's a lot more akin to Rome in that sense, where they have a pretty strong central government. So they wouldn't have like a feudal tax system where it's done on a lord to lord basis based on who governs the area. It would be like, here is the government, the empire has built a flour mill for your town, and you may use it as you wish, but every time you do, you have to pay a silver. And that goes to the government, so they can keep building more flour mills, so everywhere can have flour mills. That's just kind of like regular taxes, though.
These prices are out of control. I don't support flour mills.
But it also wouldn't be a case of they demand money specifically from you every year. It's more of like a just when you use a service. It's not also just for existing in the country you have to give us money.
So this one's more like sales tax.
How do I petition to my lord or my emperor that I don't want flour mills anymore and I would instead like a Funyun producing machine?
Well, they hold in the case of the empire, they would have forums like it would be like one day of the week they would have a forum where everyone can go and discuss. And I mean, if everyone's like, we don't want the dang flour mill, we're not going to use it, then it's just a case of, I mean, the government would probably in the first place be like, well, if you don't want the flour mill, we're not going to build it. But if it's already built, I mean, you just don't have to use it, because then you don't have to pay if you're not going to use it.
But now it's an eyesore. I want it out of my village.
Well, that's like how our town runs out businesses all the time and they just become vape shops.
Well, you know what you could do? This is what the government would say. You know what you could do? If you give us a lump sum of money, we'll replace the flour mill
With a vape shop?
with a Funyun mill. So, another basically a replacement tax.
Oh.
But there's no income tax because that's a very, very modern creation. I will say income tax might be a thing in like places like really well-off city states where pretty much everyone is constantly employed all the time. So like Waterdeep,
San Francisco.
Yeah. Hexon, I believe, in my world is pretty akin now to like Venice. So a lot of places like that where it's like a very mercantile, everyone pretty much works almost all the time. If you have a very regular income, there might be like a proto income tax where they're like, yeah, every year it might not be based off of how much money you make, but it might just be like you have to give a sum of money to the government every year to stay a citizen or something like that. I'm not sure how the Elven Republic would do it, because now they exist, and that's that would probably be if I would base it off of historical precedent, it would probably be a land tax. It would probably be if you're a property owner, because that's usually how early republics did voting rights, was you own property so you get to vote. So that would be a very easy way to be like, if you own property and you can vote, you're a citizen, so you should pay a tax. So if you own property, you pay a tax on your property every year, something like that.
I think the big question would be, how would Finral design taxes to work?
I don't want to know. That's a question for Finral. And also, he wasn't the only one in charge. It was a triumvirate that established it was him, Finrod, and Liare were the first three that kind of put it together, and then after they all kind of faded out of politics, it became a republican system. Kind of like the reverse of Rome. They went from being very autocratic to now we have a republic with a triumvirate in the middle.
I am the Senate.
I am the Senate.
Anything else?
In Dracarys, they just give taxes to the dragons every year. It's a purely opinion-based thing in Dracarys. The dragon just decides how much money it wants that year, and they give it to him. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking about.
Tax evasion.
You could, in that system, pretty easily evade the taxes because it doesn't matter where the money comes. No one, it's not an equal thing.
As long as the dragon gets the money,
you don't have to all equally give money. It's easier for everyone if you equally pitch in, because then everyone's sharing the burden, but you don't have to do that necessarily. I could very easily see in this system like years where rich people would just basically be like, their houses would be ransacked and they would probably be murdered, and then all of their goods just given to the dragon.
I'd like to say we provide enough to the community that Schadenfreude doesn't pay taxes.
Which would incentivize philanthropy so that people would like rich people so that they wouldn't get killed. So there you go. That's a way that the system actually kind of works.
Wouldn't it also greatly incentivize people to have mobile civilizations so that way the dragons, if ever they can evade the taxes, they literally evade the taxes by going
They
to a
just
different
leave.
dragon?
That too, yes. It would incentivize nomadic lifestyle.
Yeah. Like travelers will never pay money. Small groups of travelers will never pay these fees.
Yep. But then you got to be out in the wilderness all the time, and that has its own. Would you rather be out in the dangerous wilderness or pay taxes?
I'll take
Joke's
my
on
chances
you.
with the tree demons.
I'm going to be sending certain mail to universities and libraries across the United States.
I thought you were gonna say something in the Vivia universe, but no, you just said the United States. Okay.
You don't have a country called the United States of Dracarys?
Not Dracarys. We've got the Rigerian Confederation. They're my
Yeah,
analogy.
haha, that's what I was talking about. Haha.
They're my U.S. analogy.
I got it
Caiaphas
twisted.
invents
Whoops.
anthrax.
I never said anything about ant tax. But that's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
They could give me their little crumbs of food they take from picnics.
Well, I mean, if they're
Trickle-down
gonna live in
economics.
people's
What's that
fucking
race
houses,
called?
they might as well pay rent.
The Three Creen? Is that what they're called?
Free
Yeah.
queen.
The ant
Yeah.
people?
Yeah. All right.
Okay. What's your thing you came up with that we were gonna tell the audience in a bit?
I got 2 ways for the audience to have to do taxes
Oh,
in their homebrew worlds. It's the only ways that will work without fail,
Okay.
and will be interesting and could be really funny to do on a party, not gonna lie. The first one, immaculate taxes.
like the money
I-
just disappears from your coin purse without you realizing it.
No, that's the second one.
Oh, okay.
This one is the most powerful deity in your domain has insisted upon taxes.
And just and just takes it.
No, they don't take it. They show up and they go like, "Hey, give me the taxes."
They personally go to everyone.
Mm-hmm. And you can try to run, you can try to hide, you can try to fool them, but in the end, they'll know.
What if you just like
That is
shoot them?
that's very Greek though, because like I could see a story, like a legend in this society of someone being like, this is the person that actually fooled God and didn't have to pay taxes one
Yep.
year because like he gave them wooden coins painted gold or something.
Exactly. You can have really fun stuff like this. And also with this system, your party could be traveling around and suddenly it's tax time.
Tax time.
Or
Yeah.
alternately, story-wise, Arachne didn't just piss off one of the goddesses. She just didn't pay her taxes. Spider time.
Exactly. That's all it
Spider
takes. Oh, and you can do this in any system. You can make it as serious or as funny as you want, because you can also make it to where, like, it's not called tax time, it's called the Great Culling, because so many people don't
Pay their taxes,
Oh,
so they just
no!
die.
It's the purge, but
Yeah,
worse.
or people try to fool it, or they're like, "Oh crap, I'm gonna try to like run away this time, or I'm gonna cast invisibility, or I'm gonna give them fake coins," and it just
I
never
feel
works.
like this should be the system that exists in the Doc Mimsy Reginald verse.
Agreed.
True.
I'm gonna put it in the canon document.
Yeah. Now the second system I came up with is like what Jordan said earlier, where it does just happen automatically. It's like modern day direct deposit taxes.
It just comes out of your bank account.
The wizards, the magocracy you live
Yes.
in sets it up when you're born. They give you like a sigil that is
Mhm.
imprinted onto you
Yep.
that just takes your money.
The society, they magically just take the money. They just and boom, now you just have modern day taxes.
Yep.
Although maybe you can work out the kinks and not have the funny little guessing game, and so they actually are just like, "No, you've done your taxes, obviously, because you were imprinted with the sigil. There is no extra step. You just live here and make
The-
money, and we
yeah,
You don't
the
have to
re-
guess
the
how much you
good-
owe.
I mean, any taxes are bad taxes, but
Taxation is theft, we know.
that is the most like the streamlined system where it doesn't feel like anything's being taken from you is probably the most preferred one.
True. And then everybody that lives outside of that society goes like, "That sucks. I hate that. What is wrong with you?"
Yeah.
And then like their own nation is burning down around them, and it's just like, well, it's not that bad. Like you get into some interesting politicky stuff with that one.
Yeah. honestly, didn't think the tax episode would be as in-depth as this, but
This is great.
the
I
fact
love
that we
taxes.
the fact that we managed to go from, yeah, I would probably have a feudal-based tax society in part of my world to, do furries exist in the Vivia universe? And if
What is
so,
fairy tax?
if so, are they suspiciously wealthy like in the real world?
It's true. We just, money makes the world go round.
It does.
And your
Does the
homebrew
repo
world
man
too.
exist?
I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't want you to explain.
I really want to explain what the repo man is.
Too bad. Save it for Tumblr.
Oh,
It's from a musical.
a musical. A
A
musical.
musical. That's also a very good musical. Love Something Rotten.
That is it. Yeah, that is.
No,
a
it's from Repo the Genetic Opera.
Okay.
It's a horror movie musical.
Didn't
So
ask.
now, audience, you too, based off of what we've talked about here today and the suggestions we've given to you, can know how to implement tax systems both based in reality and a little bit in absurdity into your homebrew world.
Also, comment if you want me to talk about Repo the Genetic Opera.
Don't comment, please.
I will
Get in
find
the
you.
comments.
Also, one last thing, I came up with another one where you just have people that are tax advisors, but they control you have to pay them money for them to advise you about your taxes, so they've kept it's kind of like a scam. Or perhaps you have to have tax insurance that you have to pay into in order to pay fewer taxes, but in reality they don't do anything.
So it's like modern day taxes.
Yes. We're just finding more and more ways to reinvent modern day taxes.
Yep.
What a horrible concept.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed the episode you just listened to. If you really like our content, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications on YouTube, and look for us on Spotify. If you'd like to see us continuing to do more fun projects in the future, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can find our page linked in the description above all of our other social media links. And finally, if you'd like to keep up with the zany shenanigans of our lives and check out some more skit-based content and things like that, check us out on Twitter and TikTok, links in the description. And hey, thanks!